I'm good to share the screen.
Yes, you are.
Okay. Okay, so my project that I worked on this semester was illustrative progression from traditional to digital media of the ankle joint. So essentially I wanted to make a big portfolio piece that I would be able to use that showcases my skills going from sketching all the way to modeling in 3D, like a 3D environment. So I started off with the brainstorming where I wanted to go from the different bones. And that's one of my passions, is being able to try and figure out how the body works. So I had the different options between the bones and joint modeling versus like an organ modeling. And you can see from the heart that if I render that in Maya, there would be a lot of details, and trying to get it to animate the right way would be a lot more than I thought I could handle. So I decided to go with the ankle, as you've seen from the title, but I also considered the shoulder and the knee and the skull because it had that skeleton component to it. So I decided on the ankle because it gave the two different like categories where you can you're taking the ankle bones or the tarsal bones, and it gives you an organic kind of model that you can work with, versus the metatarsals where they're kind of similar except for the small little details that you would fix between the first and the fifth going through the different toes. And so I started off with the sketching, and in Maya you have an X, Y, and Z axis, and so you want essentially a view from the front, the top, and the side. So if you take any other objects, say like your computer mouse or a water bottle, and you take those different sides and you put it into Maya, you can come up with the entire object. But when you take something organic, you have to take more than just those three views, because if you just take those three, it'll look the same on both sides. So with this one, I had to go into the cadaver lab for references, because after I did the sketches, I realized it was not going to work just that way for doing each of the specific bones. So the first bone that I started with is the calcaneus, or the heel bone, and might have been a terrible idea, might have been a great idea. Still can't tell, because it was the absolute hardest bone that I could have started with, and probably the whole project, because the pictures on the left, the very left is the top, and then the next picture is the bottom. So you can see the different concave and convex parts of the bone where you have to take the object in front of you and be able to look at the top and the bottom at the same time, as well as the left and the right as you keep going around. So the middle picture is the front view, and then the back is essentially a half sphere. And then on the right is the left and right views. So you can see that the top goes completely straight almost, while the left has a very big indent to where it would articulate with the next bones of the foot. So then the next one I did, trying to go a little bit easier on myself, was I did the metatarsals and the phalanges, which are the toes. And you can see that there's different curvatures to each of the phalanges. And then the picture on the right, you can see the differences between the metatarsals. So the big toe is essentially like a big rectangle, and then the rest of them kind of look like a dog bone. And then the very top one is essentially the fifth metatarsal, or where your pinky would be, and it kind of curves upward. And when you align that with the rest of the foot, that is where some of the tendons and ligaments would cross over. So it is there as like an anchor point. And then the sesamoid bones essentially usually pair up with the first metatarsal, which is the big toe. And they're two little circle bones. They aren't connected when you're first born, and then as you grow older, they will start to calcify and connect. And they're not usually included in models, but I thought it would be anatomically accurate to include them. So then with the articulation, it gave me another complication because after I modeled all of them, you have to essentially make sure that they match up and connect with each other. So you have single joints from the phalanx, which are the very small toe bones, and they only connect from one side to the next. And then when you go into the multi joints, which is the tarsal bones or the ankle bones, you have a bone that connects on one side to the metatarsal, and then two bones on the other side, and then also another bone on the next side. So on each side, it's connecting somewhere. You have to make sure that they line up correctly. And the tibia and fibula, I decided to include, you'll see in the next few slides, so that if I wanted to go in and animate the foot moving, I would be able to get flexion and extension from that joint. So these are my stills that I got from the 3D modeling in Maya. And essentially from doing this, I want to be able to show which bones are mobile and which don't. So the tarsal bones, which are by the ankle, don't move at all. As you move down the foot to the metatarsals, they move a little bit, and then the phalanx, they move a lot. So when you scrunch your toe, those are the bones that you would end up moving. And I had to go through the different articulations and make sure that they all fit together. So after I did this, I decided I wanted to 3D print it, which was a whole challenge, because instead of sending it off to the Fab Lab, I wanted to make sure that I could understand what was happening, so that I could, if I got a printer myself, I'd be able to format it and make sure that it worked correctly, rather than just send it off and have someone do it themselves. So color wise, because I had my friend do it, he's like, you can choose whatever color you want. And so I chose a glow in the dark color, because I think it would be cool to have it stand up somewhere. And when I turn off the lights, I have it so that it's a blue color. But when you print it, it's more of a bone color that's a lot, it is more accurate. So on the right is the first print that we did, and it did not go very well. He had it set up and it worked a little bit, and then I don't know, it got off track or something, and the left side of the screen is what it actually ended up being, and you can see his thumbnail. It sized really small still. So the final one that I'm bringing to the seminar is printing right now, much better sized. And I just wanted to show the differences when we brought in the different files to the 3D printing program, what the issues were. So on the very right on the bottom, that is what that first file that I brought in was. There's this website that we use for reference. They have already set up files for the 3D printer. It's called Thingiverse, and you can kind of type whatever in. So we use that as scale reference to see what it would be. So the very tiny one is what it first came in as. So I tried resizing it, and that's the top right one, and it clearly did not fit the page at all. So then we went into the bottom middle, and you can see I got a much better comparison size-wise. And then the next issue that I came across was on the very left. You can see how some bones are smooth and some are not, is because I had to make sure there was enough faces so that it smoothed out. So I had to take my file from Maya into another program, smooth it out, and then send it back to Maya. And when I first did that, it messed up some of the bones and like how they were placed, as well as not smooth out all of them. So I had to correct those. But going back to the stills, I was really happy with what I came out with. So yeah.
Okay, are you ready for some questions, Rebecca?
Yep.
Oh, Stephen, you were muted. Do you want to go ahead and ask?
Yeah, I was announcing that I am not an anatomist, so I don't have any expertise in this area to ask you the really deep probing questions that will challenge you, but I do have a pair of feet. So so that there must be a modal foot, right? An average foot. I mean,
Yeah.
feet are different.
Yeah.
For example, I have high insteps, whatever that means. So I don't know, were you shooting for an average foot? Is that, how do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I essentially went for an average foot. So like when you go into the anatomy labs and stuff, they have like the actual skeletons. So I took the foot and I laid it out for references and then kind of worked from that. Because I know the foot naturally has an arch to it. So like your instep, the arch would be a little bit higher, I would think. Some people have no arch, so instead of the big toe being much higher, it would end up being much flatter.
I see. Okay, so that aside, what did you know going into this project that what did you not know going into this project that you now know? I mean, in other words, what have you learned from doing this project?
Well, I haven't, like, I've done modeling in Maya before, but essentially that was last semester and then a couple of years ago. So I wanted to challenge myself to do the whole foot as an entire subject, kind of like my own kind of project. So like setting out the scheduling and actually getting references rather than having an assignment where you actually get the references just sent to you.
Mhm.
So I actually had to go and talk to people and work out things.
And you're 3D printing, if it
And that one, yeah.
process now, but assuming it comes out right, it's just going to be the bone structure. It's not, you're not messing around with tendons and ligaments and that
Correct.
Sort of.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Okay. Meg, do you have any questions?
Yeah, so I would just follow up to Stephen's question and ask, when you have the 3D printed model, is it one solid piece or is it all the individual parts that you assemble? So it's like a movable piece. I'm thinking it's one solid piece.
Essentially, so like the tarsal bones that aren't supposed to move, they're going to be one piece. But when you get to like the tiny bones that actually have a lot of the movement, I'm going to be able to move those ones.
Okay, so you'll have something that connects everything together.
Yeah.
Okay, really interesting. And you requested a table, correct? So that you have a
Yeah.
place to
Yeah.
put said foot. Okay. My next question is, so much trial and error, which I think that's probably where so much learning
Yeah.
in place. Did you reach a point where you were like, I have officially chosen the hardest bone to model in Maya and now I'm turning back? Or were you like, I've gone too far and I'm just going to finish it?
So essentially the end that I wanted to be able to do with this project was, since it was modeled in Maya, I wanted to also be able to like animate like it walking like a foot. And I kind of just decided after that first bone that it just wasn't going to happen. So I kind of readjusted my schedule to make sure I'd get everything done before that one.
So, and I love the rationale at the beginning that this is a great portfolio piece, right? That you can use in thinking about a career move. What would that career move be? So where would you be looking to, I don't know, help to support like a medical program, or where are your skills going to be used?
Essentially that's kind of where I'm looking at right now. I have like a final kind of idea that what I want to do is I want to be able to make videos or animations for, say, if you go to the doctor's, like if you go to that doctor's office and you sprain your ankle, I want to have like a very short animation that shows you what was injured and how long, like a shortened version of how long it would take to heal, kind of in that. So as a person that doesn't have any medical terms, you can understand where they're coming from and kind of bridge that gap.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I'll say, just from a parent perspective of raising 3 athletes that have had multiple injuries, you know, oftentimes the doctor just shows us the break or the sprain or the fracture or whatever it is, and then sketches something out that that doesn't really help
Yeah.
support the knowledge and the information that you need. So I think that'd be really valuable. It's really
Yeah, because I was that person. I was that athlete that got injured all the time. And I would want to understand more. And then they would give me either the doctor talk, or like recently, if I get injured, I'm like, I'm in the medical illustration program. Can you tell me more to understand? And they're like, yeah, it's just this, and we'll still like gloss over it like I won't understand. So I think it would be really important to have something that connects the two.
Right. Really interesting. I enjoyed that. Thank you.
Rebecca, I have another question that occurs to me. So, you know, in olden days, before we had computers and Maya and stuff like that, in a doctor's office, they sometimes would have, I suppose they were molded clay, and the bones were affixed with wires. So
Yeah,
that
they
used to do it.
yeah, they do have some of the models in there too right now. But like if you get into like more complex surgeries, like if you have to fuse your vertebrae for something, that I'd be able to show that a lot easier than.
Right. So that was my question. From
Yeah.
an explanatory point of view, the modern technology does a better job in facilitating communication with patients than in the past. Is that that's your belief? Or
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. All right. Interesting. Because when you go to the doctor's office, there's always these charts on the wall. They're 2D,
Yeah.
3D, but you do see 3D models of skeletons and sometimes in
Yeah.
environments. Okay, great project. So it sounds like you have extended your skills in ways that you know, are going to be beneficial for going forward. So that's exactly what the purpose of the capstone is. So great.
Yeah.
Great job.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have questions?
Out there?
Rebecca, I would just say, you know, your project resonates with me. I have a son who broke his 5th metatarsal in the fall and rebroke it again this spring.
Oh, there you go.
It's great to have more details to really understand what's happening there. And the only other comment I'll make is you must have fantastic spatial visualization skills to do that kind of work.
Yeah, it takes a lot more than I thought it did.
Nice project.
Thank you.
Should we go to Emily? You ready, Emily?
Hello, yes, I am ready. Let me share my screen. Sorry. It like scrolls over and then it disappears. Here we go. Yes. Here we go. Can everyone see my screen okay?
Yes, we can.
No.
Awesome. All right, so for my capstone project, I was fortunate enough to start a tattoo apprenticeship. I'm really happy that I got to do this. It was a lot of fun and I learned a lot. With this presentation, I hope I can teach you guys a little bit about tattooing and the history of tattooing, and also show you guys what I did during this project. All right. Oops. Here we go. So start off with, I'm going to explain the cultural and historical significance of tattooing. So on the right side of the screen, you see is a few needle-like things. They're actually turkey bones that were found in Nashville, Tennessee, and they're about 5,520 years old. And they were used to tattoo people back in the day. And so they would carve these turkey bones out and use like half of shells to hold ink and pigment and stab away at people until a design shows up. And so tattooing is considered one of the oldest art forms. It's a universal art form, meaning it's found all over the world across all kinds of different cultures. And it's unfortunate that there's a lot of stigmatism around tattooing and the artistry because it just has so much history behind it. And yeah, so This is, oh, let me see. Otzi. This is Otzi. He is a European Iceman that they found buried beneath the Alpine glaciers along the Austrian and Italian border. And he's really cool because he is the oldest person to be discovered with tattoos. The person on the right is, her name is Nicole Wilson, and she basically recreated some of his tattoos in a study to kind of explore how people back in the day did tattoos. And with this study, she used her own blood as ink as a way to like represent what they did. Otzi had about 60 tattoos all over his body. And it goes to show like how old tattooing is and how deep in our culture it is. Hello, there we go. In this slide, you see two women, Inuit women from Alaska, and they have facial tattoos. And the Inuit tattoo has been a practice in Alaska for over a millennia. The Inupiat women and the Yupik women have been practicing this for a very, very long time. There are many different markings and placement styles, and they all have many different meanings. The one on the left has one on her forehead. That is called the Siknik forehead tattoo, and it basically means the sun. And the tattoos that you see on the corners of their eye are called the Irie tattoos, and the word means it's by the eye. So yes, it's very nice to see different cultures still trying to practice their tattoos today. These pictures were taken off of a website. It's like a history website where they did a photo shoot for these women and their traditional tattoos. Right. So during my apprenticeship, the most important thing that I would say that I learned was the health and safety rules. A lot of the health and safety rules are to protect the tattoo artist and the clients from potential health risks and hazards. In the state of New York, no minor can be tattooed even with parental consent. And New York City requires you to have a license. So there are many different rules and regulations throughout the states, and local laws have different rules and regulations for who can tattoo, if you need a license, where you can tattoo. And it's just important for, I feel like, clients and tattoo artists to know these things. I also have the rules for Florida, if it'll scroll over to it. I don't know why. Okay, there we go. So I'm from Florida originally, and in Florida, the tattoo rules and regulations are a little bit more precise. For example, you cannot tattoo in a place where you are sleeping. And there's a lot more very specific rules like that in the state of Florida. I put some of the regulations up there for you guys to read as well. Yeah. So moving on. I don't know why it doesn't like to scroll today. There we go. So the apprenticeship that I had took place at Jade Dragon Tattoos, and I was apprenticing under Selena Rose. She's a local tattoo artist who has been tattooing for over 5 years. She's wonderful. I appreciate her so much. She let me work in her private studio and basically taught me everything I needed to know throughout this course. The picture you see here is an example of what a setup may look like before a session starts. So everything you see here has either been sanitized or has been prepackaged so that it is clean, it is sterile. We have our paper towels for wiping our clients. We have the ink and disposable ink trays. Our tattoo machine is wrapped. Our needles are packaged. We like to have everything, we like to set up everything in front of the clients. And then we also open everything in front of the client so that they know that their equipment is sterile and clean and we are practicing safe measures. And that is one of the first things that I started learning when starting this apprenticeship, was just how to keep things clean and how to keep you and the client safe. All right. And then the next thing that Selena taught me was script and lettering. This was probably my least favorite part of the apprenticeship. I'm more of a figure drawing artist. I like to draw animals, I like to draw people. So doing this was a challenge, but it was really fun to learn. She told me that I need to learn how to do this because it is an essential skill for tattoo artists to be able to do script. It's a very profitable skill. A lot of people tend to get memory stuff like names of their passed away, dates of the passed away, or dates of like their weddings, stuff like that. So the skill is very important. So that the sheet on the left would be the example and the sheet on the right would be my attempt. And then if the next screen, yep. And then I did like 12 pages of these, and then I reworked some of them. So that was one of the things that she had me practice. Another thing she had me do was, I think my button might actually be broken. That would explain why it's not.
Your arrow might work too.
There we go. Cool. So she had me draw straight lines on notebook paper. I did like 7 pages of these, and basically what this does is it teaches me how to control my line work, how to keep it straight and clean, which is very important for tattoo artists to know how to do, because you do not want a tattoo artist with shaky lines. So yeah, this is another thing she had me work on. And then I go on to show you my sketchbook. She wanted me to kind of like explore the style that I'm into, or the style I want to do. And the style I'm into is called black work, and it's very heavy with line, very heavy with black ink and shading and line work. This is just a page from my sketchbook. I did some lettering. I did a little fairy and spider web and a knife, just some stuff that I usually see people get tattooed. And then the next slide. Yeah, I think my button's broken, but that's okay. There we go. So for this project, or for this capstone project, I asked for funding for an iPad Pro with a pencil, because Selena told me that basically all tattoo artists use an iPad now, and they use it to create designs and trace designs so that they can then print it out and stencil it on the client. So this was something I really needed to learn. And on this slide is a design that I created from a sketchbook page that I have. And I'm actually really happy that I'm learning to do digital work. I've been pushing it off for a really long time because I love my traditional work and tools, but I learned a lot from Procreate and the iPad for designing stuff for tattoos. So that was a lot of fun. And I think that is it. Yep. My resources and references. And I'll just go ahead and stop sharing my screen. Cool.
So Emily, I'll jump in and start with a couple questions. I really like that scorpion drawing. It's very, very cool.
Thank you.
So how would you say COVID has changed or shifted the tattooing process or the popularity? And those are two obviously separate questions, but can you speak a little bit about how the last couple of years has maybe impacted the industry, and maybe it hasn't? I see tattoos everywhere. So, you know, I'd be curious to know your thoughts about how COVID has impacted things.
I think COVID has kind of like made everyone become hyper aware of like their own health and keeping themselves safe. So now in the tattoo industry, it is very much expected for everyone to be like super on top of it, super clean. Like if you make one little mistake, like, oh, you didn't wash your hands in front of the client does have like an issue with that. It's just safety and cleanliness has become even more important since COVID. And also, I would say that it's still sort of the same. The need for tattoos has not gone away. In fact, it probably is starting to kick back up again because everyone can go and get tattoos now. But we do get a lot of cancellations because people don't feel good. People are a lot better about that now. And it's just, it really is about the tattoo artist and the client relationship. A lot of the clients that Selena has, she's known for years. She's known their family for years. It's all about keeping that interaction with the client.
Okay, and is there a regular, you know, health organization that routinely visits her shop or other shops?
So in the state of
licensure,
it is not required, unfortunately, for all tattoo artists to either have a license, but it is required for like, you have to have a place to dispose of your needles. So the organization that comes in to collect that has to come into the shop. But that's about it. But in the state of Florida, we do have people who do come into the shop and go down a checklist and make sure that everything is sanitary and ready for people to come in and get tattoos. So it really depends on the area that you work in.
Okay, great, thank you. Stephen?
So Emily, this apprenticeship didn't actually involve you in actually doing any tattoos?
No. Typically in an apprenticeship,
you're muted.
Oh, you're not muted. Hold on, Emily, you're not muted, you just cut out. Oh, and she can't maybe hear us. Can you hear us, Emily?
Frozen?
I froze.
Can you hear us now, Emily?
Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay.
No,
yeah.
you cut out and I think you couldn't hear us. So we didn't hear your answer.
Okay, that's fine. The question was, did I tattoo anyone? No. Typically in an apprenticeship, you don't start tattooing until like a year into your apprenticeship.
Okay, so this was like 3 months, so you've got a ways to go before, if you choose to pursue this, before you actually have your first victim.
I am getting my machine soon, and Selena is getting ready to take me to that next step, but that's going to be outside of this program. But yes, I will eventually get to that point.
So I don't know, whether you're much of an historian, but when I was growing up, you know, you didn't see tattoos. I mean, maybe people had them, but you didn't see them. But now, obviously, it's gone to the opposite extreme. So do you have any sense of how that's happened or why that's happened? I mean, what's been the cultural development that has caused that? And you've cut out again. We can't hear you.
The tattoos back in the day were for people who were part of gangs, people who were affiliated with, let's say, like if you're Latino, if you're Puerto Rican, you want to get that tattooed on you, you want to show your pride. That's what a tattoo had a lot to do back then. Now tattoo is a little bit more about expressing yourself and showing like, hey, this is who I am. And people aren't really afraid of the retaliation of having tattoos anymore.
I imagine people have studied the evolution of its popularity. I mean, it seems to me to be a very interesting, fascinating cultural development that, you know, because like I say, when I was young, I mean, you didn't see it at all. And so it's been a very interesting development. Okay, well, I think it was a great project. It sounds like you got a lot out of it. And so that's great. And I'm glad that you're going to pursue it. But I'm not sure that I will come to you to get my second tattoo.
At least not right away, Steve, right?
Right. I don't want to be. I don't want to be.
Give her a couple years.
Yeah, because you know some of those lines weren't straight. I know one particular line was not straight.
No, I made notes in there and I was like, what is this line? Why does it look like this?
Well, any other questions?
I can really relate being a traditional artist and then going into computer stuff like the iPad and Photoshop and stuff. So when I first started school, I went into animation and then I decided I didn't like the computer anymore because I like drawing things traditionally a lot more. But since everything's moving towards more digital, it's a really good skill to have. And those lines are terrible to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Any more questions for Emily? Okay, so Scott, you're number 3 and take it away.
All righty. Let me share my screen. All righty. So this is my project. It's called In Love and War, and obviously it's by me. So what's in this project? There are 3 pieces of music in this project, one being an Italian aria, one being a German lieder, and one being an English art song. The first one is Si Chai Ceppi. It's composed by George Frederick Handel in 1709. It was originally composed for an opera called Bernice, and George Frederick Handel is one of the most prominent composers of all time. He's created many symphonies and orchestras that have spanned the test of time for about like 200 to 300 years. And this song was originally arranged for piano accompaniment. And the next one is called Vigmund, which was written by Robert Schumann in 1840. And he originally created it for his lover Clara. And he also had some help with Liszt, who arranged it for a piano solo. And it is a part of a set of lieder called the Mithrin Opus 25. And the last one is an English art song called Silent Noon. It is composed by Ralph Vaughan Williams in 1904. It's a part of the House of Life, which is a setting of 6 sonnets. It's the second piece of that song cycle, and it was arranged for an instrumental accompaniment. So my theme, where I got my theme from, I find a lot of parallels with Love and War. I find that you have to go through the same things with like mental warfare and such, where you try to figure out what the other person is thinking, and like when you have a love interest, you try to figure out what they're thinking. And in war, you also try to figure out what your enemy's thinking. And sometimes these overlap into a point where love is used in war to seduce an enemy, which leads to betrayal and other things. So that's where I drew a lot of inspiration from for this theme of mine. So this is going to be the synopsis of the Berenice opera. So it starts off with the Queen of Egypt, Berenice, is said to be betrothed to Prince Demetrio, but the Roman Senate, has other plans. Prince Demetrio loves someone else and wishes them to be on the throne. Alessandro, who actually is in love with Berenice, agrees to help her thwart this plan. And of course, this turns into a love-fueled war with espionage and seduction at the forefront. And someone, and not even just someone, many people are bound to be hurt by this. And this is where I find most of my inspiration for my theme, because of just how much of hatred and seduction goes on in that. So I did some research on leaders. The beginning of Lied started in 12th century with the Minor Singers, and they chose the subject of courtly love. And then originally it was only one melody line, but in the 14th century, polyphonic Lieds began to be created, which in a polyphonic piece of music would have two or more melody lines going at the same time. So that was a pretty big deal for back then. And then 18th century, it started to pick up more speed with composers such as Telemann, Haydn, Mozart, and Beethoven. And then Lieds are generally just a piece of music to be sung with an accompaniment by an instrument or anything else that would accompany a piece of music. So this is some background research on Schumann. He was born on June 8th, 1810 in Zwickau, Germany. In 1840, Schumann married Clara Wieck, which helped fuel his composing, which I mentioned earlier. He was deeply in love with her, and he created a lot of pieces of music based off his love for her. So I take a lot of inspiration from him as well, and how much he loved her and how much he wanted to dedicate his music to her. He also created symphonies as well, such as the overture and number 1 in B flat. In 1850, he became the municipal music director in Dusseldorf, but unfortunately, he was fired in 1853 and became mentally ill, as he claimed to hear angelic voices in his head, and then they put him in a mental ward for the rest of his days without letting him see Clara until like a couple of days before he died, which is absolutely a tragic thing to do to somebody. And here I have the translation of Si Chai Chepi. So it reads in English: yes, even in chains and bonds, my faith will be resplendent. No, not even death itself will put out my fire. Italian arias are generally short. They are usually repeated lyrics that are usually embellished on and have different melody lines that complement the words very well. But I feel from these lyrics alone, it just shows, like, no matter what happens, even if I get taken in by somebody, even if I'm at my last wit, I'm at like close to death, it just shows how much you care for this person, and you know that you'll never give up on them, you'll never stop believing in them. So I find a lot of inspiration in this for my theme. And next would be the translation of Igmoon. It's a bit longer than an Italian aria. So it reads: you my soul, you my heart, you my rapture, oh you my pain, you my world in which I live, my heaven you, to which I aspire, oh you my grave into which my grief forever I've consigned. You are repose, you are peace, you are bestowed on me from heaven. Your love for me gives me my worth. Your eyes transfigure me in mine, and you raise me lovingly above myself, my guardian angel, my better self. From what I gather from these lyrics is that you're so in love with someone else, and you just care for them so much. It's just they're your other half, and I think that it really just speaks to me, and how much a connection you can have with somebody means to you, and how powerful that can be for another person. And I really am excited to perform this music and hopefully show the emotional connection I have with these kind of pieces. And this is going to be some background on Ralph Vaughan Williams, who created Silent Noon, the English piece. He was born on October 12th in 1872, and this is a really tough place to say. Gloucestershire, I think it was close enough, but well, no. England. He studied English folk song and English music in Trinity College in Cambridge. He rose to prominence before World War I, creating symphonies and orchestral pieces. He also had to go into war. He was drafted into the war, which stopped him from creating music for a little bit. But afterwards, he went on to become a prominent composer for the next 30 years. And here is Silent Noon. So the song is actually written based off the poetry of the House of Life created in 1870. It is by Dante Gabriel Rossetti. Some of the poetry that is in that piece of music, which I don't have in here, but I hope to convey it very well through the piece when I perform it. But it shows the experiences of love, explores the experiences of love, sorry. The lyrics of Silent Noon paints a picture of meadows and the beauty of nature. It's almost as if you're spending that time with someone else in that meadow, just really enjoying it, enjoying their company. And yeah, it says sharing it with a loved one. So now I'm going to go into how I learned the music. So the way that me and my vocal coach go about things is first we go and look at the words of the piece of music. We would go to a specific section, run through the words. We would just say the words, be like, "Si, trai, chepi," and then we'll say that we'll make sure we have all the the pronunciation down and such before we delve into the rhythm. Once we have the pronunciation and the words down, we will add rhythm to the words and be like, "Si, trai, chepi, alerito," instead of like with no singing involved at all. And then once we get the rhythm down for that part, you would move on to the melody, and then you'd add it and be like, "Si, trai, chepi, alerito, tela," and then you eventually build onto it and you put it all together. And then that's a really efficient way that we found in creating music. And it's worked for me for the past 4 years I've been working with him, and it's really a big blessing that he was able to be in my life and also help me put together this project. So there are a few difficulties with learning a language, and not just learning a language, but learning it in a song setting. So in terms of Italian, the T is actually pronounced differently in Italian than it is in English. So I have an example: "Si trai ceppi." It's really supposed to be "si trai ceppi." I'm not doing really good pronunciation right now, but when I sing it, it'd be like "si trai ceppi aleri torte," like that instead of a T. And so when you read that sheet music, it's a bit jarring to have to separate what you know already from the music. So that was a little bit something difficult that I found doing. And German in and itself is zone beast. I have two examples there of points in the music where I had trouble pronunciating it. It's like "Ich ewig meinen Kummer gab" and "Dein Blick hat mich vor mir beklagt." And when you add melody to that, it's really difficult to read English words, remember there's an accent there, and also remember what you're singing. So I personally love singing German, but it's a bit of a chore. And also, yeah, lining up the rhythms to the words. Yeah, but it's tough, but it was fun. And so this is how I prepare for performance. Of course, that's a picture of me with my a cappella group. I am wearing this as we speak. That is actually my solo. That's one of my only solos I've sung for that group. And so the way that I would prepare, that I'm going to be preparing for this performance is, of course, I'm going to memorize the music. And the way we memorize music is we'll, of course, take a specific section or a system of music, and we will look at it first, and then we will run it. And then we will take away the music, run it again, see if there's any problems. If there was, we'll do it again until we get it down pat. And we just keep doing that and doing that and doing that for each piece of each section of the music. And then we, of course, you have to vocal rest. Vocal rest is you just keep talking to a minimum for a day or two, and you just try not to use your voice as much as possible. Drink as much water, maybe have a cup of tea to be prepared for singing. Well, in my case, I actually have 3 gigs lined up in a row. I have my concert, I have the symposium, and then I have my recital. So my voice is gonna be put through the ringer for a couple days. So I'm definitely gonna have to be utilizing my vocal rest techniques. And of course, self-confidence. I just have to make sure that I know that I've worked so hard on these pieces of music, and that I know that I have everything down pat, and I'm absolutely ready to show everyone like all the hard work I've been putting in, not even now, just for the past 4 years, and all how far I've come with Pablo, my voice lesson teacher. And I just can't wait to show everyone just how much like vocally I've been improved. And of course, you have to have rehearsals with my pianist. Of course, so I'm gonna have 3 different pianists or 2 different pianists. One for my symposium, one for the recital. So Pablo is actually going to be the pianist for me for my symposium, which is really good because, of course, we've been working on these pieces of music very hard. So he knows everything that I want to do with it, how to take it, and everything. So I'm super excited for that. And that's really important to get that down pat. Because if the pianist is trying to do something that you aren't doing or is not following you the way that you wanted them to, it'll come off as weird in the audience, and it won't sound connected and on the same page. And of course, I need to establish an emotional connection with the music. So for me, I've personally had a heartbreak. I feel like I've been betrayed by someone before, and I like singing ballads a lot and sad songs. And I mean, not necessarily singing them. I just feel like they fit my voice well. But I really don't have any problem tapping into that side of me, especially with love. And currently, right now, I have someone in my life who is really special to me, and even the happy parts of the songs is going to be just great to just sing about, and and hopefully she'll be there too. So I mean, I'm really excited for this. I have a lot of emotional value in this. And to touch on the war bit too, I picked this theme before the war in Ukraine was going on. And you know it's really sad what's going on there. And in that case, and the parallels between love and war, I'm choosing what's going on in Ukraine right now to tap into my emotional connection, because the things that are going on there are just absolutely atrocious, and I hope eventually it can be resolved in a very quick and orderly manner. So that's it. Thank you.
Meg, do you want to go first?
Sure. Thank you, Scott. That was great. I'm really looking forward to the performance. Could you talk a little bit about the process for seeking out these specific pieces or the artists, or
Yes.
How you arrived at that?
Okay, so what we first usually look at is voice type. If it doesn't fit my voice well, it's not going to work in an audience setting. But of course, the theme, right? So we usually have catalogs of books that we go through, and with pieces of music in it, and we really try to find ones that speak to a theme of either, because I originally had one of the songs already, so I was like, okay, let's try to build it off something I really know and I have really polished, so that it can be really solid as a starter piece for me. So that would be C Tricepi for me. I've had that for we've been working on it for like about 2 semesters now, and I was like, you know what, let's build something around this. And that's around the Bernice opera, which is Love and War. So I thought, let's do some more sad song, not such sad songs, but loving songs where you chose the emphasis of love. And that's how we found Vigmund, because it's a higher level piece, and I haven't sung German in a while. So the subject matter of the lyrics really speaks to me on an emotional level. So that's how I figured out that one. And then Silent Noon, it's another one where we just we first listened to it. He pulled it up, and I first heard it, and I'm like, you know what, that's got to be it. It was so beautiful, and it just the picture it paints. I hope to hopefully paint that picture the same way when I heard it. I didn't have the lyrics in here, which is something I'm kind of regretting to show you, but you'll hear it's in English, so you'll definitely be able to understand what's going on when you hear it in performance. But I hope that answered your question.
No, it does, definitely.
Okay.
So you've had 4 years roughly of performing experience.
So not counting high school, I was in chorus in high school, but yes, I've been in 8-beat, my a cappella group, for 4 years. I've been working with Pablo for 5 years, sorry, because I didn't get in the first year. So I went to him right away to hone my craft and make sure that I can get in the next year, because it really tore me apart when I didn't get in the a cappella group the first year. So that's how I met him, and he has absolutely shown me how to be an absolutely amazing singer. So I also just forgot what you said.
So what's the new learning that happened over the course of the Capstone project?
Yep. Okay. So having to tie these 3 songs in together is a chore. Lining them up and everything is tough, but you mean new learning it as in the music?
I think just overall in your own learning, and it could be
Mhm.
or it could be musical, or
Yeah. So I have never actually tailored or even like made my own project where it was tailored to a specific theme. like in this respect, I'm not sure how to put it, but I just haven't. This is like a different type of undertaking than what I'm used to, because I was a software engineering student before this. I was just coding and everything and doing all those big projects. So having to create my own project with a structured theme, being sure that it's conveyed the way that it's meant to be conveyed, and learning the music with and making sure that the language of the pieces are also followed correctly. Learning all three of those at the same time, three different languages, is a bit difficult. It's definitely new for me. I've never sung 3 solo pieces back to back to back. I've never sung 2 solo pieces back to back. So I've only done 1. Actually, no, I've only done 2. Sorry, I have done 2, but I have not done 3. 3 is a whole new thing for me. And that's just touching on that. But the musical stuff, we have added a lot of stuff to C Tri Cheppy that I'm really excited to show you. There's a lot of flourishes and stuff I do. And it's really coming into my voice well. But yeah, I mean, it's the musical stuff. I'm going to have to show you on the performance. I don't know how else to put it.
Oh, that's fantastic. That sounds like a lot of learning. So
Yeah. Yep.
that's great. Steve.
Thank you.
Scott, so it sounds like this has been a progression over 4 years, and what you've done, you've just pushed the borders out a little further. So I didn't know, I wouldn't have guessed that you were a software engineer. So is that what you're going to be doing, quote, as a career, or are you hoping to take this creative approach?
So I probably am going to be looking for software engineering related jobs in the future. Hopefully more on the business side of things, because right now my major is I'm taking more business classes in SOIS, because SOIS allows me to do that. So I'm hoping to shift my focus more to a business side of things. If that doesn't work out, I probably will be searching for software engineering jobs. I currently like investing with my father. So, and he used to own a business for 25 years. So I'm taking a lot of inspiration from that. And I'm trying to maybe push myself in that direction necessarily. So I feel like this project is more of just like the culmination of everything I've done over the past 5 years, and showing everyone how far I've come. And it's not so much as to bring it over into my career life after college, but to show everyone just what I'm capable of and what I can do.
So not to put you on the spot, but what's more fun, this sort of artistic work or software engineering?
Oh, you already know the answer to that
question. So, and also before I hand it off to somebody else to ask questions, you don't have to sing the name of the English county, but I can't help but tell you that the pronunciation is Gloucestershire.
Is it?
Gloucester,
okay.
Yes.
Cool.
But you don't have to sing it, so it doesn't matter.
Gloucestershire. Okay, I got it. All right, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Has anybody else got questions?
What's your favorite language to sing in?
Definitely Italian.
Italian. German,
It's
something else.
German is something else. Latin is also something crazy.
I took
sung
German
Latin in church.
I took German last semester, and just looking at the words, I'm like, oh, okay.
It's the fact that it's the same letters as English makes it even more difficult.
Yeah,
like you have to separate your two minds there. It's like, okay, I speak English, but I have to sing this right now.
Yeah, the W's are V's, and
yep.
W's
are V's, and all the phonetics that go above the letters that are not in English.
So bad.
All remembering all that is a bit tough.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any more questions?
Yeah, just quick, Scott, along those lines, how challenging is it to switch from one language to another, the way that you're going to have to do that?
It's kind of funny, actually. The way that music works in my head is once I get it down pat, it just becomes a piece of music. Yeah. So, and it, all that stuff I went through learning it, it just becomes solidified at the end. And then it's just like, okay, this is muscle memory. This is what I know. And I mean, it's a little different. I mean, I actually haven't run through it all yet, like back to back to back. I hopefully am going to do that within the next few weeks. So I'm going to definitely see how that works out in my head. So it should be interesting, but it just, after a while, it becomes memorized and it becomes muscle memory, and you just know what to sing at that point in time. And then once you do that, you can also add more things to it. It just becomes more and more.
Makes sense. So no more? Jim, you have any questions? Nope. Okay. Well, thank you very much to the three of you. Great projects, one and all. And we look forward to seeing you again at the symposium. And we'll see you then.
See that at 5 o'clock.
Great job, everybody. Really proud of your efforts, especially as you're wrapping up the semester and we know you have a million other things going. So great job, and we'll see you on the 25th.
Bye.
Thank you.
Wow.
Did you close the captioning?
No.